This next macro can save quite a lot of time for documents that have many tables. As you may know, tables need some specific styling to be accessible to assistive technology users, kind of like how we added heading styles in the previous video. Headings are often confused with headers, which is one thing we'll be adding to these tables. Let's start by again practicing building this macro with the macro record function. First, click into any table in your document. We can then go to the View menu and select the Macros dropdown. Choose Record Macro and give it a name. I will use a table style with no spaces between the words. I'm also going to give it a keyboard shortcut of Ctrl-Alt-T. We can click Assign and Close and then start styling this table in a way that will make it more accessible. In the Table Design menu at the top, I'm going to choose the first table style that has dark black borders for each cell. It's called Table Grid. Let's go to the Macro dropdown and stop recording. We can test out our macro by going to the next table in the document and pressing Ctrl-Alt-T. It does style the table appropriately, but it also turned on header row and first column checkboxes for this table. We can actually use this to our advantage though, by adding one more line of code to our table macro. Let's make sure our cursor is still in the table and then go back to the Record Macro button in the View menu. I'll call this one A column, give it a shortcut keystroke of Ctrl-Alt-C, and then click Assign and Close. Next, I'm going to go back to the Table Design tab and uncheck first column so that I can get the code for that action in the macro editor. I'll stop recording the macro, click the Macros button, and then choose Edit on A column. I can then highlight the code for turning on and off the first column checkbox and paste it under the code for styling the table in our previous macro. I'll save that and go down to the next table in the document. When I enter the table and press Ctrl-Alt-T, I see that it styles the cells with black borders and turns on the header row checkbox. This is a pretty safe move as almost all tables will have a header row to identify the categories of the columns. But this table does actually have a header column. If only I had a quick way of turning on the first column checkbox. Oh wait, we already set that up with our last macro. I'll press Ctrl-Alt-C and the first column checkbox gets checked. We could then press Ctrl-F to open the navigation pane and use the drop-down at the end of the search box to search for tables in the document. Looks like there are 242 more tables in this document. Yikes. Fortunately, we have one more macro trick we can try. I have some code that we can use to automatically style all the tables in a document. Let's make a third table macro by clicking the Macros button in the View tab, giving it the name Auto Table Style, and clicking Create. Next, I'll paste in some special code that is slightly different than what we got with macro record mode. If we wanted to add further actions to this Auto Table Style macro, we could go below the line that turns off the first column checkbox and type TBL period. Autocomplete then gives you some ideas of functions that you can add to this macro. I'll move into the next table, press the Macros button in the View menu, and look for the Auto Table Style macro. Note that you do have to be inside a table when you activate this macro. Otherwise, it won't perform any action. After I press the Run button, Word freaks out and becomes unresponsive as it styles all 240 something tables. When it finishes, I can see that all tables have the correct styling and have header row only checked. As a bonus, we still have the ability to quickly find all tables with the drop-down in the navigation pane, and we can use Ctrl-Alt-C to turn on first column for any tables that also have a header column. So we now have the option of manually moving through tables and using Ctrl-Alt-T, or we can use the Auto Table Style macro to style all tables at once, with the caveat that we need to go back and turn on first column where necessary. These tables obviously still need a lot of cleanup to make them fully accessible, but we'll save that for another video.